For Halloween last year, we ran Ariados, the Generation 2 spider, so why the hell am I putting myself through this again? Last year on the channel we ran a spider Pokemon, and we're doing the next best thing this year with a tarantula. Every Halloween I like to do something that's a little bit spooky and scary, especially for me, but I will admit that after running Ariados last year, I gained a new fondness for that Pokemon. This year I decided to backport Galvantula, the Generation 5 tarantula Pokemon that's sure to give me a little bit of a fright. And if you do enjoy these backports, please do make sure to like the video and check if you're subscribed, because backports do take an awful lot of time, effort and energy to create. Now before we get into the challenge, let's take a look at the stats of our Joltik. And as always, we're starting at level 5. We've got 20 HP, we're holding a berry, and our 4 moves are Shrink Shots, Leech Life, Spider Web, and Thunder Wave. In terms of our stats, it's 10 in attack and defense, 11 in the specials, and 12 in speed. So we've got fairly decent stats to begin with. Our biggest issue is only having Leech Life. Leech Life is not a good move at all, so we're going to have to play this carefully, and I decided to just take out the Poliwag line. That's why we're playing at night, because Poliwag's going to be one of the easiest Pokemon to knock out. Even with Leech Life, it ends up being a 3 shots courtesy of a critical hit, and once we grow up to level 7, I decided to take on the rival for the first time. And it was fairly simple to pick a starter for the rival this time. Cyndaquil is going to have the type advantage over both Joltik and Galvantula, so I think it stands to reason that giving him Cyndaquil at the very beginning will prove to give Joltik the toughest time as we go through the start of this challenge. And for this first rival battle, we have to use a combination of Thunder Wave, Screech, and Leech Life. It's not particularly quick, but it does get us through the battle eventually. We grow to level 8 and we defeat the rival in 3 minutes and 42 seconds. An awful lot of leveling up later, and we find ourselves in front of Falkner. Falkner is a flying type specialist who leads with Pidgey. We're going to start off with a Thunder Wave against the Pidgey, and then our best option is to use Fury Cutter. We've just got to keep it building and building and building. Now we don't have to worry too much about Gust because it's running neutral, and 2 Fury Cutters is all it takes to finish off the Pidgeotto. And that's the Zephyr Badge including Sprout Tower in 11 minutes and 26 seconds. Let's now move on to Bugsy, the Bug-type specialist who leads with Metapod, and we have Electro Web on the learn set by this point. It's a fairly decent Electric-type move at base 55 power, and it's going to be just what we need to get through Bugsy fairly easily. We're on to the Scyther now, it's going to be super effective against that. 2 Electro Webs finishes Scyther off, and that's the Hive Badge in 18 minutes and 42 seconds. But we can't celebrate for too long, of course. The dreaded Rival 2 is just around the corner, and this time we're going to have a type disadvantage to his starter. To get to his starter though, we've got to beat up a Ghastly. We're going to use Electro Web, and it's looking like a 2-shot. We don't get paralysed by Lick, and he sends out Quilava. We're both doing a lot of damage against each other, but we just about have the upper hand courtesy of Smokescreen. The Zubat's going to be weak to Electro Web, so we knock it out in 1 shot, and we are through Rival 2 in our first attempt in 19 minutes and 18 seconds. Let's now take a little trip to Goldenrod City where Whitney is waiting for us. She's a normal type specialist who leads with Clefairy. Now we've got to be very careful for Miltank's rollout here, so we're going to start building up the Fury Cutter again. I think Fury Cutter definitely has its place in the early game, and we dodged the flinches, Fury Cutter hits like a truck, and we get through Miltank on our very first try. Time of 24 minutes and 3 seconds. And now as we're heading towards Ecruteak City, some of you who are eagle-eyed may have noticed that the hidden power type changed from Psychic to Ice in between the Rival 2 and the Whitney fight, and that was just because of a simple error setting the DVs. Instead of having 15 in attack and 13 in defense, we ended up with 15 in attack and 12 in defense, which sets the Psychic type. So I manually overrode those DVs to set the hidden power Ice type, and I wouldn't normally do this. However, firstly it's a backport, so it's not going on the main leaderboard, and secondly those DVs we started off with were worse. So if anything, we were only at a slight disadvantage at the beginning of the game, and we didn't gain anything by having hidden power Psychic. And now it's time to take on Morty. He's our 4th gym leader together, and he leads with Ghastly. Spark's on the learn sets now, and it's a 1-shot on the Ghastly. It's not quite a 1-shot on the Haunter though, and that means we're on a clock for the rest of this battle. That doesn't seem to matter though, because we're holding the Mince Berry and it's a 2-shot on Gengar, and then we can finish off this final Haunter with one further spark. We are through Morty in a time of 37 minutes and 17 seconds. Let's now sail across the open seas towards Chuck's gym, and just before we face Chuck, we take on Black Belt's Knob. Now he can be a little bit pesky because he's got a rock sliding Machoke. However, we get very lucky here and he goes for Karate Chop instead. We grow to level 36, and at level 36 we say goodbye to Joltik and hello to Galvantula. That's the Pokemon we're running with for the rest of the challenge, so let's see how we get on against Chuck. He is our 5th gym leader together, a fighting type specialist who leads with Primeape. We take tiny damage from Primeape's Fury Swipes and Poliwrath comes out. We take it deep into the red on turn 1, we finish it off with another Spark, and that gives us a Storm Badge in a time of 39 minutes and 47 seconds. A quick Rocket section later and we are in front of Price, the Ice-type leader who leads with Seal. Now we've got Spark and that's going to be super effective against Seal, and out comes Piloswine. Piloswine's going to be fine, Signal Beam is a 2-shot and he doesn't bother to heal. We grow to level 42 and here comes the final Dugong. Another 1-shot finishes Price off and we obtain the Glacier Badge in 47 minutes and 35 seconds. Let's now take on Jasmine, the Steel-type specialist who leads with a very pesky Magnemite. We don't have anything great for the Magnemite, so we're just going to Spark it, but we end up being paralysed. That wouldn't be too bad if we actually got a chance to move. However, we were fully paralysed an awful lot of times. Jasmine wouldn't heal at that HP, so we just needed to get one more Hidden Power Ice off, and we'd have won the battle. It didn't happen though, and we're back to square one. We take a reset and we try again. If you're wondering why I'm not holding the Paralyzed Cure Berry, by the way, it's because I only allow myself to get one berry from each individual tree throughout the course of the challenge run, so that means that I could only get the single berry from Violet City. The second attempt went much smoother this time though, and we obtained the Mineral Badge in 49 minutes and 4 seconds. 6.5 minutes of rocket nonsense later, and we find ourselves ambushed by the rival in the Goldenrod Underground. This time he's going to lead with Golbat. Sparks a 1-shot on the Golbat as we grow to level 46. Here comes Quilava. Quilava's going to be absolutely fine, it's another 1-shot, so he sends out a Magnemite. This time Spark's capable of 1-shotting, so we get rid of it and we move on to Haunter. Haunter's another simple 1-shot, and the final Pokemon is Sneasel Pleasel. We use Return to finish it off, and we get through the rival in 55 minutes and 59 seconds. Another 6.5 minutes later, and we're in front of Claire. She's the Dragon-type specialist who leads with Dragonair. Signal Beam is more than capable of 1-shotting all 3 of these Dragonair, and I'm fairly confident in this battle because we didn't bother to heal beforehand. Let's now move on to the Kingdra and see if it's any problem at all, and the answer is no. A combination of Hidden Power Ice and Signal Beam keeps Claire out of healing range, and that means we can defeat her and obtain the Rising Badge in a time of 1 hour, 2 minutes and 42 seconds. And that means we have all 8 Johtonian Gym Badges acquired, and we can start making our way towards the Pokemon League. But before we get there, we have to be ambushed by the rival for one final time. This time he's going to lead with Sneasel Pleasel, and it's a 1-shot with Discharge. Typhlosion comes out to play, and it's looking like it's going to be a 2-shot with Discharge this time. Flame Wheel deals a little bit of damage and we knock it out on our second turn. Here comes that pesky Magneton. We get Thunder Waved once more and we are paralysed for the rest of this battle. Paralysis really has been the Achilles heel for poor old Galvantula, and a lot of it just comes down to incredibly duff luck. We're on to the final Pokemon Golbat now. We get confused, and then we just cannot seem to hit this thing. We have status conditions up the wazoo, they all come together and they force a reset. This time I'm giving in and holding the Paralyzed Cure Berry. I was trying to save it for later on against Lieutenant Surge because I knew his Magneton would be a pain. However, in the end I changed my movement slightly in Kanto. I went to grab an extra Paralyzed Cure Berry and then I did the gym leaders. So it did all work out without too much disruption. This time the rival battle is a lot smoother. We're on to the Golbat now. He uses Wing Attack, but it's too little too late. We knock it out, so we grow to level 55, and we say goodbye to the rival in 1 hour, 8 minutes and 14 seconds. And with that, we're at the Pokemon League, so we'll heal up whether we need to or not, and we'll say thank you to the HM friends. So it's a big thank you to Kenya, to Abra, to Psyduck, it's merci to Paris, and the biggest thank you to all of you lovely HM friends of the channel. And now before we commit to entering to the Pokemon League, let's take a look at the stats of our Galvantula. And we are level 55 with 176 HP. We're not holding anything at the moment, but we will change that. We have Discharge, Signal Beam, Hidden Power Ice, and Return. And then in terms of our stats, we've got 131 in attack, 106 in defense, 154 in special attack, 113 in special defense, and 160 in speed. Those, of course, are the out of battle stats. Will get a big buff in battle, as we'll see now against Will. He's our first league member and he leads with Xatu. And Xatu's a nice and simple start with Discharge, so out comes Jinx. We'll use Signal Beam against the Jinx to take her out in one shot, so he tries again with Slowbro. Signal Beam's just the job to take care of Slowbro, and it's perfect for Executor as well. That leaves his final Xatu left to go. We use Discharge again, we knock it out, and we're through Will in 1 hour, 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Let's move on to Koga, the poison type specialist who leads with Ariados. And it's last year's Halloween Pokemon versus this year's, and we have the upper hand. We grow to level 56 and we get the option to learn Bug Buzz. We'll replace Signal Beam with that because I think it's going to be a much more useful move. And then we'll get back to using Discharge against the Venomoth. Fortress comes out and it's a nice and simple one-shot with Discharge. We're going to keep on using that move because it's the best we have against Koga. We critical hit the Muck, and the final Pokemon is Crobat. Crobat doesn't survive, and it was a clean sweep of Koga in 1 hour, 10 minutes and 6 seconds. Let's now take on Bruno, the fighting type specialist who leads with Hitmontop. And do you remember a couple of videos ago I mentioned the Goldberry strategy? We're going to hold one just in case things go a little bit pear-shaped this time. We get rid of the Hitmontop without too many issues, and we'll use Return against the Hitmonchan. We take a pathetic amount of damage from Fire Punch, so he tries with an Onix. Hidden Power Ice is clearly a one-shot on the Onix, and his next Pokemon is Machamp. Discharge does well over half damage on the first turn. We take some damage from Rock Slide, but it's nowhere near enough for us to need to heal. The final Pokemon is Hitmonlee. We one-shot it with Return, and we are through Bruno in 1 hour, 10 minutes and 55 seconds. Our final league member is Karen. She is, of course, a Dark-type specialist who leads with Umbreon. No need for the HP up strategy this time because Bug Buzz is a one-shot. And what amazes me is it's a one-shot on Houndoom as well. We're on to Vileplume. We've got Hidden Power Ice, and we one-hit that to get rid of it. And the next Pokemon is Gengar. We're going to use Discharge against the Gengar to take it out in a critical hit, and we are witnessing something incredibly rare. We get a damageless Karen fight to defeat her in 1 hour, 11 minutes and 38 seconds. That doesn't happen very often, but now there's one thing between us and the Hall of Fame. It's Lance, the Liar with the Flyers, who leads with Gyarados. And like many electric types before Galvantula, this battle is going to be incredibly easy. We have the combination of an electric move with Discharge, and we have Hidden Power Ice to take care of the dragons, and that is the recipe for a very, very simple Lance fight. Even Aerodactyl is not going to be a threat in this one because we outspeed it and one-shot it. Lance only has a Charizard left to go. It's too little, too late for Lance as we knock it out in one. We defeat Lance and become the champions of the Johto region in 1 hour, 12 minutes and 26 seconds. And our Hall of Fame time is 1 hour, 12 minutes and 41 seconds. Galvantula has done incredibly well so far, but there are still another 8 gym badges in the red fight left to come, so don't you dare go anywhere. Kanto is next. And we rejoin the action here in Vermilion City, where the first thing we seem to do in Kanto is the last thing we seem to do in Johto, which is to get another rare candy from the chairman of the Pokemon fan club. However, I've been a little bit sneaky, because instead of going straight into the Pokemon fan club, I cycled all the way to Lavender Town to get the Paralyzed Cure Berry, then I teleported back to make it look like we'd just got off the boat. However, shenanigans aside, I am very pleased to say that Galvantula is more than capable of taking on our standard Kantonian routing, so we'll start at Surge, then pop to Erica, we'll take on Sabrina and Misty, and then we'll cycle through Diglett Cave to take on Brock, Blaine, and finally Blue. And now for those of you who wish to skip ahead to the blue fight, it's going to be starting at around about 16 minutes and 12 seconds. For everybody else, let's now sit back, relax, and have our standard Kantonian chat. And in this one, I want to talk to you all about the process that goes into creating a backport, and then the things that influence my decisions in the process of doing the backport itself. So if you've never backported a Pokemon before, the process is fairly simple once you've got yourself set up. Most people who backport, myself included, will use the disassembly of Pokemon Crystal that you can find on GitHub. I'll stick a link to it in the description down below. And then, if you've got access to a PC or laptop, some kind of free photo editing software and a text editor, you're pretty much good to go from there. But then the next thing I need to think about is which Pokemon I'm actually going to backport. Sometimes it's fairly obvious, like I knew I wanted to do something scary for Halloween, and tarantulas are just as scary as spiders to me. The biggest thing that influences my backports is how hard the sprite work is going to be. I am many things, but I am not an artist, so if the sprite work looks too difficult, I'll put it on the back burner for now. That's why I generally stick to Generations 3, 4 and 5, because there's already pixel art based sprite work in the games that I can take inspiration from. And then after that it's move selection. Sometimes I do compromise, so for instance I'm not able to code Taunt, and we don't actually currently have the code for Taunt anywhere lying around, so I've replaced that move in a couple of backports with something that I think will be just as good. And then the next thing I think about is, will there be an audience for that backport? There are certain Pokemon I backport just for the fun of it because I like the species, but then there are also many Pokemon that just aren't popular enough to justify the time and effort that goes into it. And one thing I will say is the more you backport, the easier it gets. When I first started doing it, it took me a couple of hours to get a single Pokemon's code into the game. Now that only takes about 10 to 15 minutes, and I can focus more time on the sprite work and getting the moves working correctly. And again, the sprite work is something that's definitely got easier the more I've been doing it. And to show you what I mean, Tropius was the very first Pokemon I backported, and on screen now is a side-by-side comparison of the sprites I did when I first backported back in September last year, and the updated sprites I did a couple of months ago. That back sprite still needs some work doing to it, but it's a huge improvement on where it was. So if you are struggling to backport yourself, just keep on persevering and it will eventually click. But now it's time to rejoin the action here at Blue. He's our final gym leader of the challenge, and he's going to lead with Pidgeot. Much like in all the other electric types we've run recently, it's going to be a one-shot on Pidgeot, and then we've got Hidden Power Ice for the ride-on. That's another simple one-shot, so he tries again with Arcanine. We'll swap back to Thunderbolts for the Arcanine and we take off well over 2/3 of its health. Arcanine then gets caught in a healing loop, and that gives us plenty of time to regain some health with the leftovers. And once the healing loop ends, it's 2 further Thunderbolts to knock it out, and we are now comfortably back into the green. Executor is 4 times weak to Bug Buzz, so we knock that out in 1. And then Gyarados is of course 4 times weak to Thunderbolt, so it's another simple one-shot, and his final Pokemon is Alakazam. We'll skip the super effective text by using Thunderbolts, we knock it out in 1, and we defeat Blue in a time of 1 hour 27 minutes and 22 seconds. And just before we take on Red, we were close to leveling up, and a couple of wild encounters later and we're up to level 67. So now this is Red, the final trainer of the challenge, and he leads with Pikachu. Bug Buzz is a one-shot on the Pikachu, so it is irrelevant from here on out. We're going to keep on using Bug Buzz against the Venusaur, but it's not quite a 2-shot. We take a fair amount of damage from a Solar Beam, but we knock it out on turn number 3. Here comes Snorlax, and we're going to continue using Bug Buzz. We take it deep into the yellow with a critical hit, but that was enough to get Snorlax into rest range. I decide to take an optional reset here, and we're going to try again at level 70. So as we know, Pikachu is irrelevant, so we're really only facing 5 Pokemon here. The first is Venusaur, and that is still not quite a 2-shot. So that does mean we take some damage from Solar Beam, but we're comfortably in the green as the Snorlax comes out. We're going to try again with Bug Buzz against the Snorlax, but it's still not quite a 2-shot range. He body slams us, and surprise surprise, we get paralysed. Let's use another 3 rare candies and get ourselves up to level 73. We know Pikachu's fine, so we can get rid of that in one shot, and now we have some progress. Venusaur is now consistently a 2-shot with Bug Buzz, and that means we now only have to worry about 4 Pokemon. The biggest threat is still the Snorlax, and once again he uses Body Slam, and yet again he paralyzes us on the first Body Slam. I know the RNG isn't broken, but goodness me, that Snorlax paralyzes us far too much. But we'll try again, this time at level 77. Pikachu goes down straight away, and Venusaur isn't that far behind either. We are back onto this pesky Snorlax, and it is still not a 2-shot. We've got to dodge the paralysis, and that's exactly what happens this time. The next threatening looking Pokemon is of course Charizard, but we outspeed it and we one-shot it with Thunderbolt. There are just 2 Pokemon left to go. It's going to be a one-shot on Espeon with Bug Buzz. We knock it out and the Blastoise comes out to play. We've got Thunderbolt, we've got a high special attack, we knock it out in 1, and we defeat Red in a time of 1 hour 31 minutes and 53 seconds. And I am incredibly happy with that time. It just shows the bug type isn't necessarily bad, we just need some good moves for it. And that time of 1:31:56 would put Galvantula in 33rd place on the main series leaderboard, but of course it is not native to Generation 2, so we are going to move it over onto the Backport leaderboard where it's comfortably in 4th place. And I do think as we fill out the Backporting leaderboard, Galvantula will stay fairly close to the top 10 for quite some time. But with that, we are done. So I really hope you've enjoyed yourselves. If you have, make sure to leave a like. If you want to see more challenges just like this, then click the subscribe button. If you've got any feedback, leave it in the comments down below. And until next time when we're running Flareon and Pokemon Crystal, I'll say thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.